Hello, and welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the Balaur. This will be just a quick overview of the Balaur without going into too much depth. Because they are always present and evolving, there would be too much to cover, which is not the point of this video. So who are the Balaur? To answer this, we have to go far back in time, when the Balaur were still called Drakan. When Aeon created the planet, he also created the powerful Drakan with the intent of them taking a protective role on the planet. This worked for thousands of years until the Drakan grew tired of their role as protectors. The thirst for power grew stronger. Entire species vanished under the cruel eyes of the Drakan, while others were enslaved and used against humans, as the humans stood as the only species on Atreia that fought valiantly against them. The Draken demanded godlike powers from Aeon, which he refused, knowing that he would have to oppose his own creation. Without Aeon's consent, they decided to obtain power through their own means. One Draken found a source of power outside of Aeon's reach. It was Phrygian, the first Draken to ascend into an empowered version of himself. With this new power, he became the undisputed ruler of his race. The Drakan turned their backs on Aeon, renamed themselves to Balaur, and Phrygian founded the Balaur Empire, crowning himself as a Dragon Lord. The method with which Phrygian ascended was applied to several other Balaur. While they all awakened, the vast majority did not achieve conditions similar to his. However, there were a few exceptions. Phrygian granted these Balaur titles similar to his, the Dragon Lords. United under one banner, led by the 5 Dragon Lords, the Balaur were an organized force accepted as a true threat to Aeon. If you want to hear more about the Aeon main story, I put a link to a playlist into the description. One drawback caused by the ascension designed by Phrygian was their weakness against ether. After the cataclysm, the Balaur claimed an unexplored land as theirs and named it Balaurea. While in Balaurea, they had to find an alternate matter to nurture from, a sort of anti-ether. With a lot of effort, they adapted to Drana and began manufacturing it to be their main resource. Now with the basic necessities covered, their wish for conquest soon revived. To their surprise, access to the inner halves, Elysia and Asmodee, was heavily restricted. Not only by their own weakness against ether, but also by the etheric field that Devas set up. This meant that they required help from old allies who still remained inside the field, the sapient races Mao and Kral. The plan would be the production of a gate to allow Balaur troops to step inside and slowly conquer every land in possession of Devas. Now let's talk about the hierarchy and the different sub-races among the Balaur. I just want to mention straight away, this is not a 100% complete hierarchy. I should simply give you a bit of an overview of how the system works. On the top we have the ultimate ruler of the Balaur, the Dragon Lord of Fire, Phrygian. Then we have the other 4 Dragon Lords, Meslam Teda, the Dragon Lord of Wind and Rage. Ereshkigal, the Dragon Lord of Ice and Justice. Beritra, the Dragon Lord of Darkness. And Apsu. Well, not anymore, since he got assassinated by Tiamat. Now the 5th Dragon Lord is Tiamat, the Dragon Lord of Earth and Death. Although the 5 Dragon Lords are often perceived as an organized force, each of them acts mostly independent from the others. They each have their own armies as well as their own philosophies and ambitions. However, each Dragon Lord is still forced to report any important findings or big-scale plans to Phrygian. Next up we have the Dragons, or also the Noble Lords. They are usually acting as personal bodyguards of the Dragon Lords, and do often not belong to a specific legion because they get their orders directly from their Dragon Lord. Two examples would be Dragonlord Tiamat's bodyguards, Tabata Pyre and Kalindi Flamelord. But they can also have other high-ranking positions, acting as protectors, captains, or brigade generals. Below them, we have the Drakan. Just as Devas are ascended human beings, the 5 Balaur lords were ascended Drakan. The legendary Drakan temper conceals a surprisingly high level of intelligence. The ancient Drakan are seen as heavily armored beings by others, because their thick skin has developed certain spikes that imitates armor. The modern Drakan have evolved into a much different shape. They got rid of their thick armor-like skin and adopted a much slimmer body, a lot more human-looking. While this evolution allowed them greater power, they must now make use of armor. Due to the epic cataclysm, new species of Balaur have been born that did not exist in ancient times. One of these species were the Naga or Nagarans, a humanoid torso crowning a snake-like lower body. That is their appearance. The male ones are called Nagarans and focus on physical attacks, while the female Naga are using magic attacks by drawing upon counter-ether. Usually they act as captains or soldiers. Below them is another subspecies, mutated due to the cataclysm. The Draconutes. They are physically weaker and far less intelligent than the ancient Balaur. They follow the orders of their Nagarand leaders, otherwise they are not sophisticated enough to have developed a distinct culture. However, what they lack in physical and mental strength, they make up in the sheer weight of numbers. Their numbers are increasing way faster than those of the Nagarans. And that is basically everything about their hierarchy. We could still talk about their allies or the races that they enslaved, but this time it is only about the Balaur. As mentioned at the start of the video, the Balaur are ever present and always evolving. Therefore, you should take this video as only an introduction to the Balaur. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can ask them in the comments or in our Discord server. If you want to learn more about the Aeon main lore or the different races in Aeon, you can find the links in the description. So thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye!